I never imagined the day a street kid would make my silent daughter speak, until it happened in the heart of the city. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other, gray skies looming overhead. The weight of silence hung over us, so heavy it was suffocating. I held my breath, feeling like I was drowning in our shared quiet. My daughter, Lily, with her wide, sorrowful eyes and trembling hands, barely moved. I watched her lips form words never spoken, secrets trapped in her throat. Our little apartment was a snug cage. The world outside was alive, colors flashing, voices shouting, music pulsing. But inside, we were surrounded by darkness. Lily hadn't spoken a single word since the accident, her voice lost along with her laughter that day. I remember the echoes of her giggles getting swallowed by the chaos. She had been a bright light, my sunshine. I was desperate for that spark to return. Every day, I tried to coax her out of her shell. I'd read her stories, play her favorite songs, but the silence cried louder than anything I could offer. And just when hope simmered in my chest, it was dashed again. I felt like a weight. I was trying to pull her from an abyss that I couldn't even see. Then came the street kid. He appeared out of nowhere, a flash of wild energy, dirt-smudged and full of life. I remember the way he moved, like a whirlwind, darting between the people on the street. His laughter was contagious, cutting through the stillness of the city. The shock of his joy made me turn my head, every instinct screaming to ignore him. But when he leaped over a puddle, it was like a spell was cast. "Hey, you." He pointed at Lily, who flinched at the unexpected attention. "What's wrong? Why so quiet?" His voice had a rough edge, but there was a spark in his eyes. I felt a twist in my gut, a mix of fear and curiosity. My heart raced as I watched him approach her. "Stay away." I wanted to shout. Who was he to her? But something in the air shifted. For the first time, Lily's gaze softened. Her mouth trembled as if she was about to break the barrier of silence. "Just a peek?" He asked with a teasing grin that made my heart flutter. "You look like a sticker on a wall masterpiece, but stuck. Speak up." I held my breath. Would she? Would she really speak? The street kid leaned closer, oblivious to everything but her, and I thought I saw something flicker in Lily's eyes, a spark of life, a taking back of something that was hers. The chaos of the city faded behind us. Time stopped, and for one fragile moment, we were drawn into a small bubble of possibility. But then she swallowed hard. Would she say it? What would she say? What could she say? I felt the world hold its breath, mine pounding in my ears. I thought I might burst. The kid's gaze was steady, unwavering. My daughter's lips parted, and the air felt electric. I barely processed the sudden commotion around us. The murmur of the crowd grew louder. Surprised whispers floated in the breeze. Is she going to talk? Is she really? I realized I wasn't the only one watching. Curious eyes turned toward us, the street kid still hovering near her, his intensity locked on her face. But then, a loud crash sounded nearby. A car screeched, glass shattered, people screamed. Panic surged through the crowd, a wave of chaos pushing me back. I couldn't see Lily anymore. In that split second, everything unraveled. The street kid was gone, the crowd surged like a tide, and just like that, the moment slipped away. Then I found her, wide-eyed and trembling, as the world around us howled. Silence followed with explosive clarity. It felt like a dark promise hanging in the air. Something had shifted, something had stirred. What would she say? I felt the shaky hands of hope gripping my chest, but before I could reach out to her, I wasn't sure if it was too late. What revelations remained trapped within her heart? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The light of day faded into an inky darkness, but in our apartment, the silence felt sharper, more oppressive than before. Lily sat curled up on the worn-out couch, her gaze fixed on the floor, tracing patterns in the carpet as if searching for answers there. I wished I could reach into her mind, pull out whatever it was that held her captive, and release her into the world beyond our walls. That moment with the street kid echoed in the stillness, a haunting reminder of what could have been. My heart ached with an unsettling blend of hope and fear. I knew the spark was there, buried beneath layers of sorrow, but each second that passed without her words felt like another nail in a coffin of possibility. "Lily," I murmured, wrapping my arms around myself, feeling the warmth of her small body, even from a distance. "Would you like to draw? Or maybe listen to some music?" I hesitated, the words tumbling out like pebbles down a steep hill. I was grasping at straws, fending off the deepening dark. She remained still, like a statue holding her breath. Then, as if summoned by the weight of our unspoken thoughts, the doorbell rang. I looked up, startled. Who could it be? It was late, and I hadn't arranged for visitors. But the urgency in that chime pushed me to move. I opened the door, and my breath caught in my throat. There stood the street kid, his bright eyes sparkling, hair tousled like he had just run through a storm. Behind him, the night was alive with a chorus of distant sirens and the soft hum of city life. "Hey," he exclaimed, his grin wide, infectious. "I didn't think I'd see you again. What are you doing here?" I asked, half shocked and half relieved. Before he could respond, he stepped aside, revealing a small bundle cradled in his arms. "I brought you something." Lily peeked over the couch, curiosity igniting the flicker of hope within me. I could see the tension in her small shoulders start to ease as she took in the sight of him. The boy knelt down, careful not to overwhelm her, and gently placed the bundle on the carpet. A small, scruffy puppy burst forth, wagging its tail furiously, a ball of brown fur and pure mischief. Lily's eyes widened, the first genuine spark of emotion visible in days. The street kid glanced at her, and then back at the puppy. "I found him roaming around. Thought he might need a home," he said, his voice softening, as if he could sense the shift in the atmosphere. "What do you think?" Without waiting for an answer, he reached out, letting the puppy sniff his fingers. "Hey buddy, this is Lily. She's a quiet girl, but I bet you'll get her to talk." "Huh?" My heart fluttered at his playful tone, a reminder of the joy that could still exist among the shadows. Slowly, Lily approached, her small fingers reaching out to touch the puppy. The moment was electric. Her body radiated uncertainty, and yet she took a breath so deep it filled the silence like an orchestra preparing to play. "His name is Max," the street kid declared with unrestrained enthusiasm. "He's a little rascal, just like me." He winked at Lily, and in that instant, something shifted. Something powerful. Lily knelt, her face illuminating with a bright smile as she gently cradled Max, whispering soft sounds, almost like music. I could feel a rare, warm pulse of hope seep through the cracks in my heart. But just as joy began to unfurl its wings, the darkness crept back in. The memories of the accident closed in, like a heavy fog settling around us. The shadows of the past loomed closer, whispering fears into my mind. Would this fleeting moment of connection last? Would Lily's fear of the world douse the hope that bubbled within? I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was balancing on a precipice, that the sweetness of this scene might come on the heels of all that pain. The street kid's bright belief in Lily, a flame against the night, would soon face a harsh reality. As Max wagged his tail, licking Lily's fingertips, I caught the street kid's eye. "Thank you," I whispered, the weight of gratitude mixed with something deeper and unnameable. But as I spoke, a sudden harried shout from outside splintered through our sanctuary. "Get back! Call the police!" A voice cut through the air, rising in panic. The street kid's eyes flickered with recognition, and for the first time, a shadow flickered across his face, a hint of urgency, of fear unspooled. His grip tightened around the doorframe. "What's happening?" I started, but the street kid interrupted. "That I have to go. Now." And just like that, he dashed outside, blending into the chaos blooming in the street. "Wait." I called after him, but he was gone, swallowed up by the dark. I turned to Lily, who held Max tightly against her chest, fear etched across her delicate features. That little spark of connection felt wobbly, like a candle flickering in a storm. What revelation would lay ahead in this night of shadows? Would Lily's silence be filled with words anew, or would the darkness take her voice away once more? Each question simmered unvoiced between us, weaving a thread of unease through the warmth of the puppy's affection. As the cries of the city echoed through my window, I felt a sudden chill, a sense that the street kid's return might not just be to us, but a prelude to something much more profound and haunting. The flickering streetlight cast trembling shadows across our living room, and for a fleeting moment, the world outside, everything felt far away. Lily was still entranced by Max, who had wriggled free from her grasp only to explore the corners of our apartment with unquenchable curiosity. She giggled softly as he chased after a stray piece of lint, the sound breaking through the thick silence like a ray of sunshine piercing a dense fog. Yet, the laughter couldn't drown out the tension that lingered in the air like an unresolved chord. The street kid's abrupt departure loomed over us, the energy had infused into our space still palpable. I glanced at the glimmer of Lily's smile, desperately hoping it would grow. "Do you like him?" I asked softly, sitting beside her on the floor, the warmth from the pup radiating against her leg. She turned to me, her blue eyes piercing through the shadows. "Yes," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. It felt monumental, the way her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. My heart leaped, a tiny, perfect flutter amidst the overwhelming uncertainty. "Good," I replied, attempting to keep my composure. "I'll be your friend." I wanted to say more, encourage her to share her thoughts, but I hesitated. The fear of pushing too hard loomed, the instinct to protect her from the unpredictability of emotions suffocating me. Lily's fingers traced the silky fur of Max as he snuggled against her, and for a moment, the past receded. The laughter of children echoed in my mind, stark against the silence we'd lived in for far too long. I forced my eyes away, trying to quell the tidal wave of sorrow creeping in once again. "It's dark outside, isn't it?" I said, shifting the conversation, hoping to anchor her further in the present. She nodded slowly, as if weighing the thought carefully. "Sometimes it's scary," she whispered, clutching Max tight. "What if we keep the lights on?" I suggested, feeling a surge of determination. "And maybe put on a movie? Something funny. How about that?" Slowly, she nodded again, her gaze shifting towards the TV stand, as if considering the possibility flickering images, laughter, and colors to push away shadows. Before I could rise to turn on the television, my phone buzzed insistently on the coffee table. I picked it up, my heart sinking at the sight of the unknown number. Hesitant breaths echoed around me as I answered, a wave of apprehension prickling every nerve. "Hello? Is this Evelyn?" The voice was clipped, urgent. "Yes, it is. Who is this?" Panic surged, coiling tight in my chest. "Listen to me carefully. There may not be much time. I need you to stay inside with Lily. Lock the doors." "What's happening? Who are you?" "There are people looking for that kid you had at your apartment." "What's his name?" "The street kid?" "Wait, what? What do you mean?" "Max," came the reply, flat and cold. "Those people are dangerous. He's in trouble. He needs your help. You need to keep Lily safe." "Please, I can't say more right now." Wait, the line went dead. I froze, the color draining from my face like the last light of day. The shadows thickened instinctively around me, whispering fear, while the flickering TV screen became a beacon of anxiety. I glanced over at Lily, blissfully unaware, still occupied with Max and the world he brought in with him. "Lily," I began, the tremor in my voice catching her attention. "We might need to, Mom." Her voice was a soft caress, breaking through the fog. "I need you to listen carefully," but the doorbell rang again, echoing through the silence of our home. A chill skated down my spine, deepening the shadows in my heart. Although I wanted to tell her to hide, instincts told me not to alarm her. I looked at her, her innocence shining amidst growing darkness, and I couldn't shake the desperate need to protect her. "Stay here with Max," I told her, standing up, every muscle in my body coiling with anxiety. "Who is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "They'll check." As I moved to the door, uncertainty gnawed at me, pushing me forwards even as each step felt like walking through thick mud. I glanced back at the living room where Lily cradled Max, their silhouettes stark against the backdrop of fear that had returned like a relentless tide. I opened the door cautiously, breath hitching in my throat. There stood two figures, faces obscured by the shadows of night, eyes gleaming with an unsettling intensity. "Is the street kid here?" one of them demanded, urgency dripping from his tone. The question hung heavily, a pendulum swinging ominously, and suddenly, the lightness of the moment slipped away, replaced by a profound darkness that wrapped itself tightly around us. Would this be where our tentative connection ended, swallowed by uncertainties that threatened to consume everything? With Lily behind me, heart pounding, the ground felt unsteady beneath my feet. And just like that, the emotional cliff hung precariously before me. What would I do to protect my daughter if the moment called for it? As I stood frozen at the door, the sharp edges of the night pressed in against my skin. The two figures loomed larger, unwavering in their demand, and I felt Lily's tiny heartbeat echoing behind me, mixing with my trepidation. I forced myself to look into the strangers' faces, trying to read the intent behind their urgency, grappling with the fear now like a vice around my chest. Who wants him? I managed to rasp, my throat dry. I needed answers, needed to buy time, but each word felt like a gamble, a dangerous game. Just some friends of his, the second figure said, his voice dripping with a false sincerity that sent chills down my spine. We're here to take him back. You understand, right? No. My voice wavered, yet I stood taller as if my posture could somehow shield Lily from their predatory gaze. You can't just come here and take him. He's just a kid. Listen, the first figure said, stepping closer, his shadow swallowing me whole. If you want to keep your daughter safe, you need to give him to us. He's in deep trouble. He's with us now, I replied, my tone steadier than I felt. You'll have to go through me. The tension thickened like a storm cloud above, and the gravity of my defiance hung in the air. I could feel the pull of a calamity forming behind me, the tenuous bond of mother and daughter stretched to its limits. Yet at that moment, a flicker of light danced within me, heart fighting back. Did I see okay? Lily's voice cut through, small and delicate, but fierce with curiosity. She had moved closer, puppy cradled in her arms. I turned, seeing her wide, innocent eyes searching for reassurance in the midst of chaos. Stay back, sweetheart, I whispered urgently, a plea woven with love. One look at her angelic face sent another wave of determination flooding through me. I would not let danger be her reality now. Suddenly, the second figure stepped forward with an impatient edge. You don't understand. People are going to get hurt if you don't hand him over right now. Hurt. The word festered in my mind. I glanced back, a moment's lapse allowing me to see the chaos this could unleash upon Lily's delicate world. This conversation wasn't just about Max anymore. It was about the quiet safety I had fought so hard to establish. Mom. Lily's brow furrowed in concern, her warm grip on Max tightening despite the fear radiating around us that I couldn't risk drawing her deeper into the web of threats festering just beyond our door. Lily, we need to go into the other room, okay? But the moment I turned back to usher her away, the figures jabbed forward, the urgency in their voices crystallizing into something sharp and aggressive. We don't have time to play games. Just give us the kid. Mom, who are they? Lily asked, confusion replacing innocence in her tone. My heart splintered. Her fear was palpable, and as much as I wished to shield her from the tides of reality crashing around us, the truth shone through the shadows. These men were here for Max, yet I couldn't bear the idea of surrendering the hope he brought into our lives. Stay back, I shouted suddenly, preemptively stepping in front of Lily. The pulse of my heartbeat thrummed fiercely as I made my final stand, arms widening protectively. Stop. The sudden plea erupted from Lily, surprising both me and the strangers at the door. She stepped forth, face resolute in her stance, expression fierce. Max is our friend. In that moment, the world shifted. The intervening space between our lives and those strangers collapsed like a house of cards. I watched, bewildered, as my silent daughter, a girl who had always lingered just on the outskirts of conversation, found the strength to raise her voice against the threat. That's right. One of the figures scoffed, but he hesitated as if startled by her boldness. Please don't take him. He needs us, she implored, her tone ringing with something undeniably a connection forged by shared fear, but also a burgeoning sense of purpose. Lily, I whispered, grasping the edge of this unexpected moment, overwhelmed. Every instinct in me told me to pull her back, yet the quiet storm within her challenged. The shadows of fear, asserting itself as a protector. Before I could say anything else, the first figure exchanged an incredulous look with the second. For a fleeting moment, their hardened expressions wavered, caught in the raw, transformative power of her words. And just like that, a flicker of hope ignited a fierce desire to shield one another. The fragile web of new connections started to tighten, breathless and fervent. Would this strength be enough? You don't know what you're getting into, one of them warned, his voice now laced with uncertainty. This is bigger than you think. That kid is bringing trouble upon your whole life. What trouble could possibly outweigh the heartache we had already faced? Then, just as I contemplated our next move, I heard a scraping noise from the hallway, the unmistakable sound of a latch sliding open. A face peeked through the doorway behind me. Max, confused yet alert, tail wagging uncertainly. "Oh no, they're here," he yelped, fear electrifying the air as his doe-like eyes met mine, wide and pleading. The moment shifted again, the emotional cliff OD this night growing steep and treacherous. It was a new realization. This wasn't just about strangers demanding a child. It was about friendships forged in fear, the love we needed to protect, and all the futures we held in our hands. As the tension crescendoed around us, I felt the world spiral, underlined by a shocking thought. Our lives would never be the same again. Would we stand our ground? Would the light of connection keep us safer? Would the shadows but thicken? We were teetering on the edge of uncertainty, with every pulse echoing like a heartbeat reverberating through our fragile reality, pregnant with the promise of change or the specter of loss. As Max stepped into the light, the very air around us shifted. His eyes darted between me and the impending storm at the door, an innocent confusion etched across his youthful face. I could feel the impending collapse of our fleeting moment of bravery, the weight of my resolve crushed beneath the uncertainty gnawing at my heart. "Max, get back!" I shouted, my voice hoarse as I instinctively drew Lily closer to me, hoping my presence would shield her from the unseen peril that now loomed. The two strangers braced themselves, eyes narrowing, as their tension ignited into palpable threat. The first figure's face hardened, lips curling into a menacing smile that did nothing to quell my rising dread. "Look at the Thes, got a new family now," he spat, a harsh mockery that sliced through the air. "But families have a way of making things harder. Trust us, you're better off without him." "Is that really true?" Max spoke up, his voice trembling but defiant. The way he tucked his hands into his pockets, trying to appear courageous, broke my heart. It felt as if I was looking at a child armed with nothing but sheer will, ready to face men he couldn't possibly comprehend. "What do you know about family?" The second figure retorted, stepping closer, looming large and intimidating. "We're here to help you, kid. You think they're protecting you? This is all a game for them. You don't even know what's coming." Panic raced through me as I cast a wary glance at Lily, whose eyes never left Max. I could see fear flickering within her, a slight tremor in her hands as they hugged the puppy closer. I needed to keep things steady for both of them, but my own heart threatened to betray me. "No," I breathed, resolute despite the churning chaos inside. "We know what kind of trouble you're bringing. Max has family here now." "Family?" The first man echoed as if the word left a bitter taste. "This is no family. This is a dead end, and it's time you understood that. No." Lily's voice was steady, wise beyond her years, though quivering at the edges with urgency. "Max belongs here, with us. You can't take him. And if you really are his friends, you'd see that." Every word was a tiny act of defiance, and I felt my own resolve swelling from her courage, filling our small space with warmth. Each moment passed rendered slow, and the air thickened with unspoken truths hanging by a thread. The two men exchanged glances, uncertainty flickering briefly in their steely demeanor before they masked it with anger. "Kids like him get hurt, and you don't even know what to look for," the second figure warned, advancing a step further while I prepared myself to protect my daughter and Max, my body a barricade. That's when we heard the unmistakable sound of a loud bang from outside, followed by distant shouts. My heart sank, and a chill washed over me. What was happening? Whoever these men were, their urgency echoed louder than my own fear, and the moment I thought we might navigate this darkness together, the rain began to fall, a chaotic torrent that matched the turmoil inside me. "Oh, you want to see what kind of trouble you're really in?" The first man growled, eyes glistening with the thrill of confrontation. "The world is not safe, and people don't care about what it takes to survive. Stop. Just stop," I cried, desperation rupturing my voice. My moment of courage faltered as I felt the encroaching shadows swirling around. "You need to leave us alone. We won't be part of your world." The prickling silence that followed swallowed my words whole. Against that backdrop, a stray cat, black and sleek, slinked past us suddenly, its sudden entrance breaking the tension like a lightning strike. It froze for only a brief instant, blinking innocently at the scene unfolding. The figures hesitated, clearly taken aback by the unexpected interloper. It felt like a premonition, this cat representing an unanticipated change in our precarious atmosphere. Suddenly, what felt inevitable wavered again, pushed aside by the absurdity of life continuing in the midst of chaos. "Get the kid," one of the men shouted with ferocity, but it was too late. We were already enveloped in the swirling press of uncertainty and dread. Lily squeezed my hand tight, the warmth of her grip igniting the instinct to protect. "Mom, we can't let them take him," she whispered fiercely, her young voice leading the charge. That I looked at the faces before you, opposing forces beyond comprehension. Would we still be standing together as this cataclysm unfolded? Was our fragile unity enough to withstand the tide of fate rolling in as thunder echoed overhead? How far would I go to keep Lily and Max from harm? Those questions lingered, heavy and unanswered, as I scanned the faces of the men who now appeared more uncertain than before. They were confused, cut off from whatever plan they once had. And then, with a flash of clarity, a realization unfurled within me. Perhaps the darkness was merely an invitation to spark a brighter flame. Perhaps within this dread and uncertainty lay unseen allies, buried in the shadows among us. But before I could draw breath, the first figure lunged, hands reaching toward Max. The moment descended into fractured chaos. I felt myself shifting. Would that flicker of hope be enough? Or had we waited too long to grasp hold of what mattered most? With a fierce determination ignited by my motherly instinct, I lunged forward as well, knowing in that instant that nothing could ever be the same. The fear, the darkness, it all morphed into one singular truth, leaving us unmoored and vulnerable. And just as I reached Max, a blind scream tore through the night, a sound wholly unexpected that shattered the air like glass. My heart raced, scrambling to make sense of the chaos, driven by an insatiable need to protect those I loved most. The revelation hung heavy in the air, cloaked in shadows. Someone had crossed the threshold. As a storm erupted beyond the door and the darkness encroached, we stood on the brink of an unimaginable reality that would change everything. Once more, it was a matter of survival. Who would emerge intact as the dawn broke? Would our bond hold amid the brewing tempest? Or were we merely threadbare strands tied together by momentary promises of safety that were suddenly too fragile to withstand the truth? The world exploded around us. Sorrow mixed with adrenaline. The night pierced through with cries that echoed my own fear. The first figure's hand reached for Max, his intent as sinister as the storm gathering outside, while I felt time stretch in a way I never thought possible. "Max!" I screamed as I hurled myself forward. Lily followed instinctively, using her small frame as a shield, pushing against the tide of the strangers with a fierce determination. The sheer absurdity of it all ignited a flame within me. How ironic it was that it was my children who found courage where I struggled. In that moment of entropy, something unexpected happened. A crack of lightning lit up the surroundings, illuminating Lily's face, swollen with determination, and Max's wide eyes filled with surprise. There was a primal understanding. We were not simply fighting for ourselves anymore, but for each other, for the raw beauty of what family truly meant. "Stop. Just let him go." Lily's voice rang out louder than the approaching storm. I grabbed her hand as she stepped into the fray, pushing through the chaos, her innocence overshadowed by the fierce protectiveness of a child who had learned early the harsh realities of life. The second figure paused, a flicker of confusion breaking through the veneer of menace. "Kid, you don't have to do this," he stammered, a strange vulnerability peeking through his bravado. "You really don't know what you're getting into." But even as I pushed against this shift, his sudden softness only invited more chaos. The first figure suddenly grabbed Max by the wrist, wrenching him forward. "Let's go, kid," he barked, ignoring the tremor in his voice, a mask of forced authority slipping. In an act of raw instinct, I leaped, throwing myself between Max and the men. I could feel the tremors of uncertainty wrapped tight around my heart. What was I doing? "You have to take him over my dead body," I shouted, fueled by something primal. The air around us crackled, tension igniting like fireworks. And then, with an explosive clap, the thunder roared, drowning out any sound of protest as I felt a surge of warmth burst forth from Lily. Her small fingers gripped my side, holding on as if she possessed the strength to support both me and Max in that heartbeat. As thunder hummed through the air, the first figure froze, looking over my shoulder, his expression shifting from menace to confusion. It was as if the storm outside had visible repercussions, and even the darkest intentions were momentarily caught off guard by the intensity of its arrival. Enough! A voice bellowed from the doorway, sudden and commanding. Instantly, everyone turned. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall woman, her hair brilliantly alive like wild flame, tattoos winding up her arms like the coils of a hidden history. "Who the hell are you?" The second man challenged, eyeing her warily as if she were a ghost. "I'm someone who knows better than to let threatening men bully a family," she declared, taking a bold step forward, eyes ablaze with fierce protection. "Let the kid go. I promise you have no idea what you're provoking." The first figure hesitated, the chaos inside him clearly battling an unseen resolve. "Look, we're just trying to help. She interrupted, laughing derisively. "Intimidation isn't help. What you're doing now is just a repeat of history. Find your own redemption for the sake of the kid, or walk away now." The authority in her voice stopped us all short, echoing like a thunderclap behind her. I caught Max's eye. His expression was a cocktail of awe and fear. He looked to me, searching for reassurance, as if our assurance could tip the scales of chaos back into order. Then something shifted in the air, pulling us closer to the uncertainty lurking between breaths. The two men exchanged glances, the tension breaking like a wave crashing upon a distant shore. But it wasn't a simple break. It was a fracture threatening to tear existence apart. "Max," I urged again, and a look of panic broke through his momentary awe. And then the unexpected happened. From behind the woman, a faint melody emerged. A soft tune played on what sounded like a flute. Surrounded by chaos, its sweetness infused the stormy atmosphere with a strange light, something akin to hope. Lily perked up, her eyes widening. "Does it mean something?" she whispered to me, a flutter of belief in her voice taking root in the turmoil. Just then, the first man staggered back, as if struck by the melody's hardened exterior cracking. No, it can't be," he murmured, shock weaving through his words. The second man paled, wrestling with the sudden shift in reality. "Oh my God. How could you?" the first one choked out, and for a moment, the lines of battle blurred. Was their bravado made of more than just thug fictions? "Let him go," the woman repeated, unwavering, as if she were there to reclaim the lost pieces of everyone's shattered lives, their music creating a bridge from violence to solace. And then, as the melody grew louder, the second figure moved, eyes wild with uncertainty, as if he could feel the very essence of his last vestiges of menace slip away. "Run," he shouted suddenly. Teeth gritted, his old self wrestled with something hidden deep, a sound within him calling. Something inside of me flickered with hope, but before I could process this strange turn of events, he reached out clumsily toward Max, and I edged forward, prepared for the worst. And that was when the startling truth seared through the air around us, painting everything muted grays. "Why are you doing this?" Max's brave voice broke through as he looked at these strangers, and then to me. "You don't have to hurt us. I know about the shadows. I can help too." The revelation hung in the heavy air like a prophecy unspoken, turning the world to silence. A quivering realization settled within me, like an old wound being opened. A glimpse of understanding ignited as darkness pulled my heart. Where had all this begun? Would this tenuous hope survive the storm? And then the melody shifted again, becoming sharper, leading us into an unknown crescendo, pulling back the curtain on our destinies, revealing secrets that could either save us or plunge us further into disarray. As the melody surged around us, it created a cocoon of uncertainty and fear interlaced with the bittersweet note of possibility. Max's declaration echoed, and I could barely hold on to the moment. My heart thudded wildly, desperate to take root in normalcy as the storm outside raged louder, drowning the world in a chaotic symphony. "Max," I choked out, caught between panic and pride. "What do you mean you can help?" I pressed, searching his wide, glimmering eyes that flickered with innocence and experience beyond his years. His voice, raw and open, unshackled by the weight of our present peril, planted a seed of confusion in me. Please, just listen. The shadows, they aren't just dark. They're memories, pain, things we can learn from. Two can show you. He stammered, his courage filling the tiny gap between us and the men looming before us. The tall woman with the fiery hair stood tall, her tattooed arms sweeping like shields. But her gaze flickered between Max and the two figures. Kid, it's not safe, she began, but the raw honesty written across Max's face changed her trajectory. Let him speak, she finally said, her voice steady, a slight tremor in her eyes reflecting the storm brewing inside us. Alan echoed, sorrow mingling with hope. The wind howled outside, rattling the door as it became an invisible barrier against the horrors we confronted. And despite our impending danger, an unexpected warmth flooded through me, pulsating with a faint promise of understanding. Max, please, be careful, I said softly, kneeling to meet his gaze. What do you want to show them? He took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of bravery he could muster. Those shadows, they were once people, just like you and me. They carry their stories, their pain, because they have never found a way to release it. He glanced at the figures, vulnerability flooding his own voice. I understand them. If we could just talk, maybe we could help each other find a way out. Silence wrapped around us, suffocating yet profound. The first figure shifted, and I could almost see the cracks forming in his armor of hatred. What do you know about all that? He croaked, disbelief marred by something deeper, buried, a sadness he barely fathomed. More than you think, Max replied, a quaver breaking through, but it held conviction I wasn't sure I possessed. The darkness can be tamed. It doesn't have to end this way. The second figure's expression twisted, his bravado faltering as he wrestled with shadows flickering across his face, mingling with the haunting remnants of his own story. I followed his gaze as it fell to my daughter, Lily. She stood unsure but fierce, holding tightly to my side, trusting but fearful of the growing uncertainty around us. Kid, you understand nothing, the second man barked, yet there was a tremor in his voice that betrayed his anger. That's not true, Max blurted. You think all I have known is fear? I see pain, the pain we all have. I've felt it too. It doesn't mean we have to surrender to it. The air shimmied with tension, emotional electricity riddled space, thickening with unspoken truths. The tall woman stepped slightly forward, a protective halo around Max, as the storm outside gave a heavy, deafening rumble. Then, unanticipated warmth flooded my heart as I noticed the flicker of connection shaping between the figures, a shared vulnerability awakening beneath their bravado. What if? I hesitated, trembling as I urged myself to give voice to my hope. What if we could find something to hold on to together? Something that would pull us all back from what we have lost. In that moment, I saw the men falter, glances exchanged heavy with confusion, the first figure's bravado unraveling thread by thread. Just a whisper of realization scratched the surface in their eyes, raw and bewildered, awakening something buried long ago. Fight or flight. The first man whispered, glancing back at his partner with something that forged a bond between them, a flicker of camaraderie laced with shared darkness, stuck in time, hesitant yet yearning. As the melody reached a crescendo, sending tendrils of hope coursing through our scattered hearts, the second figure clenched his fists but stood still. And say we did, what would it cost? Isn't fear all we have left? And that's when the world fell away from beneath us. The winds raged louder, and I could see shadows swirling in the edges of the room, threatening to pull us into a violent undertow. Max, I shouted, my heart wrestling with desperation. We need to go now, but just as I reached for him, a flash of lightning illuminated the room, casting jagged shadows, revealing a truth none of us were prepared for. Behind the tall woman, another figure emerged from the doorway, a man who seemed to carry a weight even the storm couldn't shake. Stop. You don't understand who you're dealing with, he shouted, his eyes wild yet laced with undeniable recognition. Then he turned to Lily, his voice shaking. You have no idea how deep this runs, and you should not be here. Everything shattered around met his jolt of revelation, springing forth like a flood, threatening to engulf us all in its depths. I wasn't certain if he was a savior or the harbinger of more doom, but the air crackled with the promise of cosmic consequences, exposing wounds so raw they would forever change the fabric of everything we thought we knew. And as the melody faded, the storm surged to a fevered pitch, leaving us on the precipice of awakening or destruction, hearts racing and souls yearning for what lay on the other side of uncertainty. The room, shrouded in a tension so thick it felt like the air itself was suffocating us, pulsed with uncertainty. I could see Max standing there, his slight frame trembling but resolute, and for a fleeting moment, I admired his courage more than I ever thought possible. His gaze was focused, unwavering, on the tall woman who shielded him, as if he were channeling every ounce of hope for a world he barely understood but fiercely believed in. But then my heart sank as I turned back to the chaotic web of figures circling us, each echoing the myriad of emotions swirling within me. Lily, my daughter, remained at my side, a pillar of silent resolve despite her tender age. Yet at any moment, I feared that uncertainty might engulf her just as it had so many others in the storm-tossed world outside. "Listen," the first man said, his voice cracking like thunder on the horizon. "You think you can just reach into our past and make it disappear? We've lost so much it's not that simple." Those words hung in the air, thrumming like the strings of a bowed instrument, drawing me closer to the truth. His voice held a weighty mixture of anger and despair, a blend I recognized all too well. The shadows he fought were not merely external, they crept insidiously into the corners of his soul, tainting every interaction. Max took a small step forward, his small stature dwarfed by the swirling tempest of emotions before him. "But what if we could talk about it? You don't have to keep hiding behind your pain." "Talk? Talk to who?" The second man spat, snaring his partner's gaze. "You don't get to decide how it works. You're just a kid." Yet it was Lily who astonished us all, pulling from a reservoir of courage I never knew she possessed. "He's not just a kid," she shouted suddenly, her voice ringing clear through the storm's howl, slicing through the darkness thick and heavy around us. "You're scared, and that's okay. But if we can be scared together, maybe we can find a way to be brave." The shock of her words rippled through our group, a momentary silence wrapping around us like a soft cloak. That moment of vulnerability began to carve paths between us, stitching together frayed edges with a single thread of raw, unrefined honesty. The two men blinked in astonishment, the bravado crumbling, revealing shadows of their souls laid bare that I can't. The first man choked out, looking down at the ground, the resolve in his voice crumbling like autumn leaves underfoot. "I can't trust you. I've lost too much. It hurts too much." With each hesitant step, it was as if Max was reaching for something tangible amid the chaos, grasping to pull our despair into the light, reminding us that even in our brokenness there could be a flicker of hope worth nurturing. "What if I showed you?" he implored, his voice cracking. "Let us bear some of your pain, exchange it for something, even just for a moment." Before I could even process his words, thunder shook the room. The door rattled violently, shaking loose dust and fragments of our reality. I instinctively stepped closer to Lily, wanting to shield her from both the storm and the brewing tempest of emotions. But there was something in the intensity of this moment, an unspoken connection weaving through the silence. The men glanced at each other. I could see the invisible tether that bound them through shared agony, and uncertainty was slowly uncoiling, twisted yet hopeful. Instinctively, I reached for Max's hand, squeezing it tight. "We're here for each other," I whispered to him as he stood rooted, unyielding in the tempest of our fears. "Whatever happens, we're together." Just then, the tall woman, who had been observing with an emotional intensity, spoke with an urgency that broke through the tension. "Maybe it's time you tell them the truth," she urged, locking her gaze on the wild-eyed man who had just stepped forward. "You know how deep this runs. You can help. As the words hung between us, the weight of so many hidden, unshared stories tightened around our hearts. The wild-eyed man's breath hitched, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of humanity in his stormy gaze. His mouth opened, but before he could form his thoughts, the wind howled louder, as if protesting this burgeoning connection. Then, a flicker of movement behind him caught my eye, and beside me, Lily gasped sharply, drawing me back. The door swung open wider, and I couldn't take in the sight. A figure stood there shrouded in confusion and cloaked in half-remembered dreams. "Mother!" The voice rang, breaking my heart anew. It was too familiar a melody of whispers long buried, yet echoing from the depths of my greatest regrets. The storm outside faded into a murmur as shock coiled around my heart like a serpent. I was paralyzed, suspended in a moment where reality blurred with the echoes of my past, and the truth I had clung to unraveled. Lily grasped my hand tighter, pulling me back to reality as the shadows writhed, contorting beneath the weight of memories yet untold. "What does this mean?" she whispered fiercely, and in that fleeting instant, everything in me screamed for answers I both feared and longed for. But the world erupted, and the storm surged a cacophony of voices, secrets, and truths pushing us toward an uncertain future, trembling on the brink of revelation or oblivion. The air crackled with tension as the door hung ajar, the figure beyond limned in a flickering light that filtered through the storm. I blinked rapidly, struggling to process the apparition before me, raw and visceral, a ghost from shadows I had thought I buried deep. Mother. The word held the gravity of years lost, years spent clawing through the bitterness of absence. My mind raced, a tumult of memories crashing against the shores of denial. There stood Amelia, my sister, her features twisted in a cocktail of joy and pain, of longing unmet. Amelia? The name slipped from my lips like a prayer laced with trepidation. My heart thudded unevenly as time warped around us, the laughter of childhood and the fury of betrayal swirling into a tempest of conflicting emotions. Across the room, the two men stared, their expressions a blend of surprise and guarded curiosity. The woman, still as iron, stepped forward, her eyes aflame with understanding. "This is her," she whispered, but the words hung unchallenged in the air that I hadn't anticipated this, neither the appearance of my estranged sister nor the gaping maw of my own heart, which threatened to consume me whole. There she stood, an echo of a life that could have been, of holidays we didn't celebrate, and smiles we never shared. "Is it really you?" I croaked, each syllable emerging from a place deep within me that craved the familiar. I wanted to run into her arms, to erase the scars of time and find solace in her embrace. But thought held me back, a whispered warning that maybe those wounds were too deep, too raw. "Yes," she cried, stepping over the threshold as if crossing the barrier of time itself. "I've searched everywhere for you." Her voice trembled, choked with emotion, and I could see the shimmer of unshed tears in her eyes. Lily squeezed my hand tighter, her small fingers trembling as she took in the unfolding drama caught somewhere between innocence and comprehension. Who is she, Mom?" she demanded, rounding on me with the harshness only a child could muster, her trust teetering on a knife's edge of realization and novelty. "Amelia was my sister," I replied, wavering under the weight of revealing truths. The room constricted, shadows casting judgments on our bruised relationship. "We lost each other, Lily. It's complicated." "Complicated?" The word exploded from her lips as if it were an unwanted entity. "You always say things are complicated. Can't you just talk? Just tell each other how you feel instead of hiding?" Her spirit, profound and yet unrefined, poked like a sharpened stick at my heart. I wished for even a fraction of her courage, but every step into the past felt like wading through quicksand. "But you don't know what's at stake. You don't know how people can hurt each other," I said, feeling the air thicken with despair. "Amelia, you left. You didn't give me a choice." Tears streamed down Amelia's cheeks as she sank to her knees, raw emotion stripping her of her bravado. "You have to understand." I thought she paused, choking on memories that tangled like briars. "I thought I was saving you from our family's darkness. I couldn't stay. I thought it would be better for you." Our clash of histories suspended us, weaving a fabric soaked in ache and yearning. I could see the reflections of our deepest fears thrumming in each other's eyes, fear of abandonment, of losing loved ones, of truths so unbearable they could shatter the heart itself. Max moved closer, instinctively shielding Lily, as if sensing an unsettling storm brewing within the nexus of our reunion. Maybe we can help you," he said cautiously, his words hopeful yet quaking with uncertainty. "We can be brave together." Lily peered at him, and for a fleeting moment, hope ignited behind her wide, innocent eyes. That tender episode of trust pushed through the crackling static of anxiety that dominated the space. But before I could respond, The first man took a bold step forward, shaking off the shroud of silence that had settled like thick fog. Your pain, it doesn't need to be borne alone anymore. None of us are alone in this. Emilia's heart-wrenching gaze darted between us, as if seeking reassurance that family ties could possibly be recast amid this chaotic maelstrom of events. Can you forgive me? She begged, rawness infusing her voice. Forgive you for what? I countered, tremors lacing my own sentence. For leaving me in a world that felt vast and cold? Or for not being there when I needed you most? As our past unfolded, the air hummed with uncertainty and unspoken words, easing the distance forged by the years. But healing felt like a fragile strand, fragile enough to break amid the storm-breathing chaos outside. Then, the door swung further ajar, the tempest beyond roaring loudly, ferociously. But rushing into the threshold behind Emilia was another figure, drenched in rain and regret. This newcomer, beyond our tangled histories, seemed to radiate a magnetic pull, eliciting an eerily familiar chill. Julian? I gasped, my insides coiling, as faced with a specter I thought I had buried forever within the ruins of my heart. This revelation-turned reunion twisted the knife deeper, revealing layers of betrayal that closed around my throat, leaving me breathless. Lily's grip tightened harder as her wide eyes darted back and forth, processing this discovery. Who's he, Mom? When I looked back at Julian, my one-time confidant, my pulse roared in my ears. This sudden intrusion threatened to unravel every fragile thread that had begun to weave us together. It hovered amid our longing for clarity and bonding spirit, swirling in a storm of unresolved emotions that begged to be unearthed. Why are you here? I demanded, every word a visceral plea for answers, as we stood at the precipice where the past and present collided, pushing us all toward an uncertain fate, each moment laced with the adrenaline of dark revelations yet to unfold. I stood frozen, each heartbeat echoing like a drum in the charged silence that followed Julian's unexpected arrival. Memories washed over me, flooding my mind with images of laughter mingled with secrets and betrayals. He had once been my Ancora friend, and now he was the ghost of everything I had lost, and the source of sorrow that loomed over us like a thundercloud ready to burst. What do you want? I managed to ask, my voice a strained whisper as I wrestled with the breach his entrance had created in the fragile peace we had just begun to forge. I could feel Lily's small hand grasping mine, the warmth of her curiosity mingling with growing trepidation, and it forced me to focus. The two men still loomed at the door, uncertainty etched on their faces, but they seemed irrelevant now compared to the emotional storm raging within me. That I am here to help, Julian said at last, his voice steady but laced with vulnerability. I never meant to hurt you, Evie. I was trying to protect you from the truth, you know that. The past rushed back, the weight of those words crushing me. Protect or abandon? There was no comfort to be found in that question as emotions, both sharp and tender, coiled tightly around my heart. Protect me? I repeated bitterly, my voice rising. You left me to survive on my own, Julian. I have spent years picking up the broken pieces. It's not just about you anymore. The unexpected heat of vulnerability bled into anger, and for a heartbeat, I could feel the shadows surrounding us twist in response. Julian flinched at my words, the glimmer of remorse in his eyes barely scratching the surface of the multitude of hurt we had both endured. Then he stepped further into the room, rainwater dripping from the edges of his clothing, creating a puddle that mirrored the uncertainty swirling around us. Before I could respond, Emilia spoke, her voice soft yet filled with urgency. We need to share the truth, all of us. It's the only way out of the darkness. Secrets only trap us in isolation. Her words resonated deeply, and I could sense a strange understanding growing between us that broke the weight of hidden resentments. Can we do that? I whispered, searching for collective strength in the eyes of everyone who stood